Hello, seven serpents. Good evening, Raksha, and peace, hope. I'm going to put my camera on pretty early. Hello, everybody who's here so far. The camera needs to be adjusted a little bit. My mic should be good. I noticed I clipped a little bit last week. Let me put my mic's a little high here. But I think everything's adjusted. I know that the stereo is in full, proper mode. And hello, Robin and Meandering Mystic. So it begins. Preparing ourselves. Of course, I'm going to give some people time to get here and even get myself a little focused. Had a pleasant day. I've actually had last night was very good. Today was very productive. I spent much of it at this beautiful piece of property that I think maybe in the course of 3 hours, maybe 2 cars went by. There's a spring-fed stream there, and he was the owner of the property said, "I'm going to have that spring tested to see if it's potable." And I kind of looked at the stream, and the stream told me I'm drinkable. So I had 3 handfuls of this spring water that runs through this forest. I mean, really, some pretty deep forest. And it was very delicious, and it had a little essence of forest. I could taste the forest in the water, and that was quite a pleasant addition. Hello, Oswald. And then there was one little hole in the ground where you could actually see the spring. It wasn't bubbling up, but you could see there was like a rise in the otherwise still water, where there was a hole, and that was where the water was issuing out. Hello, Jet Pet. So it just was really very beautiful, and he took me along this path through the forest. It's on higher ground, and when we were walking through one bit of it, it was all conifers and evergreens, and then at one point, I mean, like 6 feet apart, you actually cross a line. He made me aware of it. Hello, Madfinger. Where the conifers ended and deciduous began. And there was only one conifer in that deciduous stand. But I mean, walking along this path, just you kind of get to your last conifer tree, and then the deciduous trees began. So it's a very, very magical place. And I'm looking to get myself a bit situated there, even in even in my tent on a platform, and with a little bit of a strategy for how I'd get myself through winter there. Currently, there's no electricity or internet there, so that's a little bit of something to get. Yes, in Virginia. In the Floyd area. I mean, this place is, there's lots of white quartzite, and this area, I mean, almost every stone you see is white quartzite. And last night I went out to an open mic, not to play, to see what open mic looks like. What kind of people perform in an open mic. And almost to a person, especially the single performers, they sat in a chair. Well, I'm gonna take 3 of my songs there next week, and I will not be sitting in a chair. It's kind of hard for me to perform in a chair, and so I plan on making my saying hello to the town I've been in now for like 2 years, and let them know who I am. And while I was there, there's a sound man who works the open mic, is also a friend of mine and is in a band. And a couple of weeks ago, we had done a benefit for a friend of ours who's in the hospital. And so Uncle Butchie played a set that night. So while I'm sitting there, he approaches me and said, "You know, you guys did a really good set, and the crowd was up and dancing, and the feedback I got was great. If you have 2 75-minute sets, I'll make sure that you get booked in the fall." You know, it's a couple of months away now. You know, 3 months away. And I said, "Yeah, I think we can do that." And I called Uncle Butchie himself, Butch Robbins, and I told him about it. And he says, "Yeah, by all means, let's do that." And then he even thanked me for the call, because like a lot of us we're going through, this is kind of like what we're going, so it begins preparing ourselves. My calling him about a gig, a paying gig, and not a bad pay, really lifted his spirits. And then there was somebody named Transcendental who had seen, I guess, when I played my guitar the other night, and left a comment, and I left a short comment, but it probably took me 15 or 20 minutes to compose that correctly. And then a dialogue began, and it was very uplifting. And it was a good exchange, and it made me realize. And then somebody in an older stream that I did a couple of, I don't know, it might have been, it was the 5-hour stream I did of John Lamb Lash, the man. And he asked me if that amp that's sitting beneath the owl behind me, if that was a Hughes and Kettner. And I said yes. And so I just realized that, hello Deborah, and hello RC. And so I realized that there's an interest for some musical conversation. And not just about me playing, but also discussing music, inspiration of songwriting, and maybe even talking a little bit for certain people who might not know what theory is, and even using my own songs of like how after you have certain rules of theory, how occasionally by listening, the rules of theory will be broken, because when there's a melody to things, you follow the melody. And there's a song that I actually have that in the bridge, because of the way the melody's working, there's a note that normally wouldn't be in there. But when I examined how is it that note fits, I realized because of the chords, where one chord, and then the next chord, in the middle chord, has the kind of forbidden note, but because it's a chromatic climb, and you can almost always do chromatic as one note after the other. And I understood how in many ways things work, and I said, "Gee, this is good stuff to put out my guitar and explain this, and then bring out my bass and show how you know using the timing, upbeats, downbeats, how every down has an before it, like do, and just getting into like all that technical stuff around music. And I thought that might make for a good alternative stream, and I want to call that one Mystic Muse, not to be confused with the Mystic and the Moose. So okay, so that's me getting a little warmed up. The good stuff that started last night, had a great day, but it's really what's really going to segue into probably the meat of all this. Yeah, Max's last Crow House was great, Madfinger. Really good, a really good one. That I woke up yesterday, and you might have heard about that. I had this one rose bush outside, and I'd finally gotten a rose, and I was appreciating it, and it had died off, and another one was just about to open. And there's been some stuff around, I mentioned the landlord and certain panic by other household members. And I went outside, and there was a juniper bush that the rose bush came out. Ecocide had happened. Every single thing that had grown in the front of the house was cut away, including my precious rose bush. And then I had a huge piece of rose quartz at the base of the thing, and it actually was taller than where the rose bush had been cut. And I asked, "What happened to that rose quartz?" And my roommate looked me straight in my eyes, and with a very otherworldly stare, and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. What did it look like?" And I go, "Well, it looked like what would have had to been moved for you to cut the rose bush." And he had this absolute blank stare, like he had no idea. So needless to say, with me having already been a little bit shaken by the stories of the mama bear and no bees around, the ecocide, and then I go out, and right outside my own window was an ecocide. So I was grieving. It was like somebody had killed my pet. Because these were my pet roses. And it hit me really, really hard. And of course, at first it's like, how could my roommates do this? And it took me a good part of until late last night to finally realize, what was done was very personal. But the persons who did it, it was not them being personal. It was, well, Raksha likes to call it thing. Thing is archontic energy. And Gaia, the Pam, the planetary animal mother, does seem to have erected some kind of barrier a couple of years ago to prevent further incursions. But there is still a very strong archontic egregore alive and well. And so between my speaking about ecocide and also the word that I've been bandying about all kinds of written place, arcanoclast, which is the destruction of rulers, as opposed to iconoclast. Celebrities might be icons. We're talking about one of the main Greek meanings of archon, besides the beings, is that archons are rulers. So an arcanoclast is somebody who's out to destroy the rulers or a group of people. The destructions of rulers, arcanoclast. So needless to say, those of us engaging in a frontal assault on this archontic energy, this egregore, it takes it really personally. And anybody who's working through fear, and there's been this whole, gee, will we, like here comes, the rent is due in a few days. Will it be the last time we pay rent here? I haven't really entertained that, but I live with a married couple. One of the married couple was particularly in complete fear mode, and then driving the other one to sympathize, and in that fear was just like this blind response, and so this archontic egregore, this thing found very willing recipients to put something sharp in my heart and really hurt me. And it takes I process my compassion and empathy well, but most of the time I'm insulated. Very rarely is it like a frontal assault, like somebody killing your pet. If you live with roommates and you woke up and you realize that one of them had killed your pet, you would be like in shock, traumatized, and beside yourself about what to do. But my breakthrough was understanding and coming to grips with these people in their reactive fear mode of what might happen, and had just all this energy, like, let's do something, were driven by an energy that, although they did not have a personal animosity towards me and wouldn't have done this out of spite, the energy operating through them did it purely out of spite. And of course, once I got that part of it and realized that these were just the automatons that this energy worked through, then it certainly made it a little bit easier to be in the presence, because now there was no longer like, how could you do this? So it all got that. Once I realized what the energy was, what was, what felt personal, and it was very, very personal, but it just wasn't from the cutouts. So, and apparently yesterday there was a town in Maryland whose main street happens to be an old creek bed. So when all of the rain fell, an old creek bed became an active creek bed. So the main street in that town of Maryland got pretty devastated. Poor city planning will do that. But speaking with my brothers, or in this case mainly my brother, although I did have a little bit of an exchange with JLL himself yesterday and messaging, not direct conversation, but even he's kind of alluded to get ready. And yesterday seemed to be pretty much an inception day for like where it really began. It's kind of like, you rumors of war, rumors of battle, what looks like to be a consolidation of forces before an onslaught. Well, yesterday an onslaught happened. Not just to me. I mean, it happened to a town. I don't know what happened yesterday when that tropical storm slammed into the Gulf. I haven't really read any reports on that. But there were members in our own community who found yesterday was a day of archontic energetic attack. The energy of the system that feels itself under attack, and so it is attacking back. And so it begins. I was very aware of, and I had even written it almost like, let's call it using the sight. I won't call it, it's not prophecy, but like, you see a little bit ahead and then you put it into words. And it was, the words were kind of that those who are not really with nature will be getting banged up, but even those who are with with the planetary animal mother, the consciousness of Gaia, even those who are with her will still be witnesses to horror, and it'll be up close, because those who, I mean, we share space with a lot of people who are not a part of Gaia's, of Sophia's correction. And yesterday was, you know, the experience was kind of, not only will I be, I called it, like, in other words, having to be forced to witness executions would be what the fortunate, that would be the fortunate side of things, being forced to watch executions. But yesterday I felt, I realized that not only will we be forced to watch executions, you'll even get some blood on you. It's gonna, even witnessing from hallowed ground will be a challenge in itself. Hello, Mutate. So I felt yesterday was kind of an inoculation. It's like, oh, okay. So this is, it's gonna be bare knuckles and shivs. And so once you kind of realize and come to grips with, it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be war. Well, then you come out of, you know, it's kind of like Gandalf, you know, it's kind of nice to be a wandering wizard, and then all of a sudden, you know, orcs are breaking down the gates of Gondor. Well, it's time to pull out the sword. It's time to be a warrior. Hello, enjoy being. And so, but a big part of when there is battle is not everybody's into battle. Somebody's repairing the damaged masonry. Some are doing counter tactics, subterfuge. Some people are in the houses of healing. Fixing swords, feeding. There are levels to a war party. And there are 5 levels, at least as they have been put, elucidated by JLL, of the Kalika war party. Kalika is those who are joined with Kali in cleaning up the mess. Kali is called the Destroyer of Worlds, one of her many titles, Kali Ma. Destroyer of Worlds is not the destroyer of planets. What we want, those, especially those engaged in planetary tantra, is we want our planet back. And part of getting the planet back is collapsing the world that is parasitizing and making it hell. Hell, the world is hell on earth. So let us not confuse the world with Gaia, or planet, if you are able to consider it a planet and not caught up in other things. I'm certainly content. Not being a planet. I have no attachment to any particular shape. Because the shape of the planet is not as important as the realm itself. I saw that I buffered there for a moment. It's not as important as the fact that this is the Earth realm. This is Gaia. And we can attend to each other and be about our business without the macro concept of shape, which certain people find things to argue about. If we are truly in the pursuit of wisdom, or if you wanted to use the Greek word for wisdom, Sophia, which is the Greek word for wisdom, you are certainly not going, and you realize that there's a battle on. You're going to be looking for the adversary. You're going to be focused on your adversary. And there's no time for bickering amongst those being assailed in a real battle fashion. We do not have the luxury of debating the shape of the planet. And the real luxury will be having the planet back. Yeah. Well, that's really where all the right now, the place that I'm finding sanity is in my skills. You know, talking about music, talking about body work. I had somebody who Skyped called me 5 times today just to share a story he had, because he'd known some skilled body workers, and there was a 14-year-old girl who had been in a car accident with severe whiplash that had left her with her neck really out of whack. And the MRIs, the people who could read MRIs are not really often good at reading soft tissue, which is the whole purpose of an MRI, because you can read hard tissue with an X-ray. The whole purpose of MRIs was to be able to see soft tissue. But if you're not well trained or don't know what you're looking at, it doesn't matter that you have it right there. Where somebody who understands soft tissue might be able to look at it and go, ooh, that looks a little squirrely. And what he shared to me was this woman, this girl, 14, very emergent stage for a young woman. You know, a lot of social consciousness involved there. That's part of what that process of ours is about. And they were going to do exploratory surgery on her neck to see if they could find anything to fix. They had no plan other than to open her up and peer inside. Anyway, fortunately there are some very skilled body workers in the world. I even joked with him. I said, yeah, the skilled ones you can count on one hand. He says, well, I personally know 2, and I think you would fit in there too. I said, yeah, you still got 2 fingers left over, don't you? Anyway, and this person who did the work put this candidate for exploratory surgery on a massage table, put her fingers, because the muscles had attachments on the anterior cervical spine, that's the 7 bones in the neck. And the attachment points for these muscles were behind the trachea, which is your windpipe. And so he was able to watch as this woman put her fingers at the trachea, so it would be like over in here, and waiting, because when you're going to do work like this, you have to let the tissue know that you want access to those places. And then you wait for the tissue to respond. You put just a little bit of pressure there, you know, enough pressure to inform the tissue that you want to do something. and then you wait for the tissue to receive you, and it opens up and your fingers sink deeper and deeper until you can make contact with the area that you need to get to. And then once this woman was able to get to the attachments on the anterior or the front part of the cervical spine, the neck bones, which in this case were behind the trachea, she was able to manipulate the muscles, and when she was done, she was able to untwist them, relax them, put them kind of back where they belonged before they had been whiplashed out of place and then kind of traumatized into a frozen position. And when she was done after this treatment, this young woman who could not turn her head not only had full range of motion, it had improved her gait, because part of your ambulation has to do with how your spine is, and she was able to hold herself erect. So anyway, this person was so inspired by this work, he tried to Skype me 5 times when I wasn't on Skype. And so finally, I guess after his 5th attempt, he goes, are you pissed at me, or am I just missing you? And so finally I said, no, you're just calling me when I'm not available. And so I called him so he could gush about it, because that's what he needed to do. He says, there aren't many people I could tell this to that would share my enthusiasm or maybe even believe me. So so the things that, you know, are keeping me sane are my skills. Music. I'm very highly skilled body worker, and also plans and promotion of wholesome things for the future. New paradigm production is actually a title I'd given to this process a couple of years ago. New paradigm production. Not New Paradigm Productions. It's not a production company. It's about the producing of a new paradigm. One of the reasons there are so few meandering mystic is because it's not part of getting licensed. Licensure in almost anything is the licensing of the most rudimentary skills. I call it licensed mediocrity. Sometimes you stumble upon it. When I learned medical massage, I had a highly skilled teacher who not only taught me about tissue, taught me about how tissue is alive and how to speak with it. He was somebody who could talk about, you know, the exchange of molecules in the mitochondria, or how the endoplasmic reticulum works in the cell, or he could switch over and then discuss how the nadis extending out from the chakras have influences on the meridians in the body. So this was a person who could talk the most basic biochemistry or the most advanced metaphysics. That was my teacher, who taught me, quote-unquote, medical massage. So focusing on skills, that is what our value is. That's the other thing. When we start realizing our skills, what our trade is, we start to think outside of money. The reason skills were called trades is because you had a skill that you were good at that you could trade for the skill of another person. In some cases, you know, like a woodworking skill could be traded for growing things skill or hunting skill, or the tanning of leathers skills. You know, so the mode of exchange for I do this and you do that. Well, what is our exchange? The exchange was your skills, and that's why they were called trades, because you could trade. So focusing on our skills or our trades, and then extrapolating that to real world applications so that others benefit. And then it also makes you realize that much of what you want to do on the planet is either forbidden or requires a permit in the world. And it's once we start seeing the shackles, once we start, no longer are oblivious to like, oh yeah, you need a permit for this, oh, you need a license for that, oh, you got to pay, it's like, what? Not on this planet, in this world, yes, but on this planet, the way it was intended, the way we were dreamed into it, that's not. We don't require permits. And so the real place that iconoclastic action begins is here, and how we perceive, how we imagine ourselves in the world. Now, all planets will have a world on them, but in our current case, we have an archontic, toxic world, a shackled world, a hellish world, a form. I don't want to get too under that prison planet. I don't like that, because I don't want. We're not. It's not the planet's fault. It's the world that was built up on this planet. The extermination by the desert religions and their adherents, exterminating the shamans and anybody who insisted on practicing the old ways and continuing to gather their herbs or say their enchantments or present offerings to the stream that gave them clean water all the time. Hello, Sareth, the mage. So there's a lot of work in undoing the scales on our eyes. And having those scales on our eyes is also what gets us into all of this bickering with each other. And seeing somebody who the occasional very acrimonious dialogues you see between globe earthers and flat earthers, they treat each other like adversaries. And it's not any different than somebody with a book and whatever religious symbol. I won't pick on just one, but the desert religion symbols, to pick on them. Not that it didn't spread a lot further, but they have the rivers of blood and the pyramids of bodies, or walls of bodies, that they left a trail of their insisting upon their own belief. So bickering with each other over the shape of the earth is not particularly different than the, religious wars. That kind of shit has to stop between us if we're going to undo the fuckery. Before we can undo the big fuckery, we have to stop the little fuckery. The fuckery between ourselves, where somebody who doesn't share your beliefs suddenly becomes an adversary. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. So I do have open. Hello, Mrs. Seven Serpents. Well, that's the beauty of live streams, is they go down as recorded things. And during, I forget, 1 or 2 streams ago, I think it was Saturday night, and CW had joined us, and he had said he wasn't a fan of JLL in the chat. I don't know if you ever come by and read the comments under some of these shows. JLL left CW a message and a link to the kalikawarparty.org website. And so since him leaving the link made it very convenient for me to click on it as well. And I knew it was there, but I kind of took a peek at it, but I've now been really spending some time, let's say, honestly, studying it. And as I was kind of going to get started, I forget which night I put the KWP in there, and then there was certainly YouTube glitches or some kind of craziness going on where everybody suddenly had wrenches, and I mean, it was just, you know, something was amiss, and that's why the stream ended suddenly, because it was like, you know, what's going on here? RC, I find it, you know, it's an interesting, you say the invention needed is the Star Trek Universal Translator. It's when we can all easily communicate, we can start to heal. This isn't so much, I mean, this isn't about, that's a tech solution to a spiritual problem, which is speaking unexamined thoughts. Many people are speaking their feelings. Feelings are a subset that would inform our mind. If we do not do the mind processing of those feelings, then we have direct feeling to mouth, and there is no communicator or translator that will do that work for us. What we need is to get real. We don't need inventions. We need to reinvent ourselves, which is well within our creative abilities to do. And it really, it is, we should understand why we feel the way we feel. And the way we find out why we feel the way we feel is we use the feelings that arise from the second chakra area, and sometimes from the first, should be engaged with the mind or the intellect of the third chakra. And so that we actually kind of get into a dialogue. I've gone through this a few times. A dialogue where we actually understand why. What is the logic of our feelings? Because the feelings that arise are valid. We really feel that way. But do we know why we feel that way? And we owe ourselves to know why we feel that way, because many of the wounds that we have and carry and traumas that inform our behavior for better or worse are often feelings that have not been qualified by the mind. In other words, we don't know why we feel a certain way. And it doesn't have to be a guessing game, but it has to be a dialogue. It has to be an inner dialogue that cannot be had in real time. It's like a part of a meditative practice. It's part of a spiritual practice. Hello Sandy, and hello Blue Blood Jam. Okay. And of course, once we know why the way we feel, and if we still feel that way after we know why, well, then we can stand our ground and make our case in an intelligible way, and then the frustration will just be if you happen to be engaging with somebody who might not be able to kind of get there. And also, once we have the clarity, and once we are settled down in those first three chakras, then we can really access our heart. And once we can access our heart, we have access to wisdom. The mind is where we gather knowledge, but wisdom is of the heart. Wisdom is where we have truly our empathy. A lot of people mistake sympathy for empathy. Sympathy is a matching resonance with the feelings of another. It isn't necessarily. Empathy is to have wisdom of the feeling of another. Empathy, compassion, and wisdom, heart energy, they're all part of the same package. Now, I got a little something that just came up in the chat from Enjoy Being about when someone is doing so from rage. And that's why we want to be clear on our feelings. Because there's plenty to be enraged and outraged about. And it's from the shapers of the world we currently are in. People who who at the very top are intentionally cruel, poisoning the earth, poisoning the food, the air, the water, ecocide. That's where the rage should be directed. That's where the focus comes in. So, I mean, it's really a good time, as now there's going to be a lot of discomfort, to realize who are the agents, who are the generators of the fuckery. And, because even if it's like you say, well, it's this person, my next door neighbor. No, but why are they triggered? What has triggered them? And so there really needs to be a focus, like what I ran into, losing my precious bush, my precious rose bush. It wasn't personal from the humans that did it. They were instruments of the fuckery, the archontic energy, the energy of this world. Our adversaries. And I mean, I'm following chats over the weekend, and somebody feels misunderstood, and it's like, oh, they get frustrated because they're misunderstood. That's because we're talking about levels that are not part of the bigger conversation. Where we are still, I mean, that's why I did Saturday night, it was just kind of like, let's just kick around, let's be a little Dionysian energy. It was time to take a little time off. And we did that Saturday night, and yesterday, Sunday, Hulk smashed. And you know, we spend a lot of time, especially as live streams are more popular than ever. We can gather, we see the same faces, we can stay in contact. But are we optimizing that platform? Once again, I think, you know, when you, especially a platform here that tries to have a little bit of a focused tone, Saturday night felt like a good night to just, you know, let's just you know, drink some wine or whatever, and just celebrate being human. Catch our breath, regain our strength. And but then, you know, next morning, you know, sleep in late, but wake up and remember the adversary is still there. And the place that the adversary lives is in our psyches. That's where it has its hooks, its buttons, its roots. If it did not have any landscape, if it did not own a piece of your psyche, it would fall apart. Matter of fact, one of my favorite cartoons I've seen. Let's see now. Okay, I'm going to use my candle here. All right, let me go to my screen, my live screen, so I can see what I'm doing for real. Okay. So this candle here will represent the, you know, solid ground. This is the cliff over here. Okay. So basically, the real situation that we have is over here, hanging off the cliff. This is where the priests and the kings are. The clusterfuck of priests and kings, and their subdivision of lawyers and judges. Priest, king, lawyer, judge, same kind of energy. And they are the minority. They are a tiny portion of humanity. They're standing here. Humanity is all gathered on this other part of this plank. They're all standing over here. And here's where the trouble lies. And the reason why they can stand there is because they're in our minds. Once we say you're done, we step off this part of the plank, and they go like that. The only thing keeping them on the end of that plank is the rest of us standing over here supporting them. That's it. We are supporting the parasites. And part of that is, like, even my friend today goes, oh, we could do this, and it'll cost $10,000 for this permit, and $60,000 for this kind of. I'm like, wait a second, wait. A permit to, this is for hemp. So something that grows all over the place and is naturally found on the planet, like just like, you know, any of the weeds that we call weeds, grass, meadow, anything that you see in a field. We have to pay somebody $10,000 so that we have the right to grow that is already growing it, and we just want to I mean, and then there is more for another permit. I mean, so what you're saying is we need to pay the mafia so we can do good work. And so you go, well, that's the reality. Here's what bugged me. It wasn't that it's bad enough that that's reality. The fact is that in the course of discussion, it's like, oh, this is just how business is done. No, that's how fuckery is done. It is the casual nature where we think, oh, to be permitted what we should be, which doesn't require a permit, requires, like, deep pockets. Deep pockets to grow what already grows. And that's where the problem is that there isn't people going, man, it fucking pisses me off that there's something as clean as an apple. We have to pay all these thousands of dollars to these suits and ties. No, that was not how it was presented. It was like, oh, if we want to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. It was matter of fact. It is that matter of fact dialogue is proof, is evidence A of it's in our heads. When we resist, when the very thought of such a thing is almost like we almost can't talk about it because it's so fucking enraging, now we're making some progress. Then some shit will get done. But first, what is between the temples here in our psyche, although our psyche is probably not there. We'll just use that as a metaphor. Our psyche is where the adversary has its home. Once that adversary is cast out of our psyche, it will not last long in the wild. And that is something that we need to get. And, you know, how many, you know, like I said, I took Saturday night to be lighthearted, a little frivolous. One night out of other streams. How much frivolity? I mean, frivolity is a kind of taking our minds off of the immediate job. We need a little R&R. But when our habits on the internet are just one R&R and chasing the lulz, or sophistry about the sophistry or discussions around the clowns on the internet. That's not how we're going to get the adversaries out of our psyches. The adversary is the world as we know it. There is no finger to point other than there's a behavior. It's a behavior. It's the system of the world. So yeah, of course I mean, we have political parties. You got to know that it's in the U.S. Politics is schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder, however you want. With two parties, it's schizophrenia. With more than two parties, you have multiple personality disorder. So, yeah, oh, that's just the way of the world. Yeah, the way, yeah, it is the way of the world until that way gets cleared out, and then we embrace the Tao, which to me is Sophia's dreaming. Wisdom's dreaming. Does anybody, there were only a few of us who would like to be in the dream of wisdom? It's accessible to all. But first, one has to know that it exists, and then one has to actually want to be there. And then things happen. And when the less of us that there are, the easier it is for thing to fuck with us. It's like everybody else is out chasing farts, but there's a few people here who fucking nailing it. Let's fuck with them. Where if it was everywhere, it wouldn't be, again, it becomes whack-a-mole. They're everywhere. Where we step off that plank that the scumbags are on the end of, that we're holding. They're hanging off a cliff. The moment we step off that plank, they plunge into the abyss. Yeah, the third option is usually sitting on a fence. It's not as binary as it sounds. It's not, again, there's an adversary against the holistic part. And again, what is it? There's like what looks like binary, us, them, but then we realize there's a common space that we're both sharing. And that is the mind space. You could, it's almost like, creation, destruction, and sustaining. And so it looks like binary of scumbags here, humanity here. That looks like binary, but that is kind of like they're the destroyers, or, they created a system, we want to destroy the system. But there's also what I'm really addressing is the sustaining of the system. Hello, Zach. So, yes, there is that constant triune aspect of things. And a lot of times, sometimes when I am speaking, because to me it's kind of obvious that there is a triunity, it is, and then you're being binary. No, you're hearing binary. But sometimes, and when the listening is binary, so you have to make it, the language gets couched in that a little bit, and then of course the memes start. Oh, but you're, that's binary. I mean, it can get quite circular. I'm looking at the chat and trying to be judicious about responses. Everybody enjoying the commercial in the background? I'm not. Oh, there's all the contraindications coming through. I want to thank Madfinger and Raksha for their contributions into the chat. I'm looking a little shocked. It's because of the intrusion into this space from another space. I mean, there was a period, up until 2010, I did watch TV, but I muted the commercials. The closest I get to that is when, instead of muting the commercial, the channel surfing begins. It's beyond me too, Sandy. But I remember a couple of times, you know, being in a chat, well, at the Den of Lore. And I was just trashing TV, and oh no, I got scolded by the Sage of Canada. That was, you know, there's a lot of really good stuff on TV. I think if you dive into a cesspool, you might find some gold rings. I have ad blocker. I don't ever see ads on YouTube. And boy, it is a blessing, that ad blocker. And it's pretty funny when I check the weather on the Weather Channel. They'll go, "We need your help. You know, we support ourselves on our ads." And it's just like, oh, fuck you. And they do have a section, continue without ad blocker. So I always continue it. Although sometimes I just want to see what the cloud cover is, how close a storm might be approaching. And so, you know, I see everything I need to see. This kind of, you can see through it a little bit. It comes in, you know, about the ad blocker. And instead of even hit continue with that ad blocker, I just close the window because I already have my information. Hello, Deborah Gale. So, the Kalika War Party. The Kalika War Party is something that you could say, I mean, certainly the person, the human being, the anthropos, the anthropine, the member of the human species that took the time with other anthropines to put it onto a website is John Lash and other Kalika War Party people. But obviously the inspiration for this, probably from Kali herself. And actually I'm gonna copy and paste as a reply to a question into the chat here. Plenty of information there, Sarath. That particular page I find pretty useful because there's a well, first of all, there's a beautiful thunderbird composed of a certain clustering of consciousnesses called the Dakinis or Mahavidyas. These are both Sanskrit and Tibetan terms. And so there's quite a bit of poetry and thought behind all of this. And the reason why I particularly like it is because much of what the people who may have gotten some wind of the Kalika War Party have heard part of the magic that the first two layers will be engaging in. But there's 5 layers. And so certain people hear about the first couple of layers and they're like, yeah, you know, we got that warrior spirit. It's time. It's game on. And so they will be naturally attracted to those first 2 layers, which is the real warriors on the front line. And then there is 3 layers of support and other forms of unraveling the tapestry and knocking down walls. And so for certain people who are not feeling the morbido, coming from the word morbid, for those who do not naturally feel the morbido, there is plenty to do. And those things get outlined very well in there, and that's what I want to do, is speak about some of those other things, those other undertakings that are not part of the morbido spirit. Because the morbido spirit has a lot of people go, "Ooh, man, you know, okay, well, there's a fair amount of that if you listen to John Lamb Lash, and especially if you're really interested, you can get on the mailing list, and there's sometimes things get sent out that are not on public YouTube. Because, you know, if you're not really interested, there are certain discussions that probably are, you know, especially with the adversary now paying a lot of attention, it's probably best that they're not out everywhere. Yeah, Facebook. Facebook is an interesting. Although I actually did enjoy a little bit of Facebook today, because the Uncle Butchie played a couple of weeks ago at that benefit, and there's 2 45-minute clips of the same song. I guess there are 2 of them split into 45 seconds each, of us playing one of the songs, a song called Hambone. And so I, you know, on Ruth Newman is her name. Ruth, R-U-T-H, Newman, N-E-U-M-A-N. And if you happen to be on Facebook and you put Ruth Newman, you should be able to look at her timeline and go back a couple of weeks, and there's 2 clips of Uncle Butchie, and you'll see, the camera's on my side of the stage. The camera's closer to me than it is to Uncle Butchie. And if you have your headphones on, you'll be able to hear the bass playing too, because I first put it on the speakers I normally use, and I couldn't hear what I was playing. I put my headphones on, and I could hear what I was playing. Excuse me. And although I've never ever liked Facebook, and that's also because I know a little bit how Facebook came about, and so I've never liked Mark Zuckerberg. So it was very difficult for me to consider using a platform that, you know, at least has that man as their mascot, at least. It always was a put off. I don't like the interface. Like, even right now, I'm having to use regular YouTube interface, but I don't know if you know, YouTube now has a dark theme. I enjoyed a dark theme. I could do something a little less dark, but it's certainly better than the black, white, and red of the normal interface, with a little sprinkling of blue here and there. The dark theme is a lot easier on my eyes. And including the forum I go to, One Truth, they have about three or four different interfaces you can use. I use one called Galaxy, and it's very easy on the eyes. Where if I go to iRise, they just have the regular kind of blue and white format, and it's very hard on the eyes. So I've never liked what looked to me like prison decor of Facebook. Looking at Zach, I think from what I know of, most health food stores sell Tiger Balm, although Walmart's might be cheaper. I won't make any comments about. I mean, I've certainly been in Walmart's for different things. Sometimes for electronic stuff, I think I bought my last DVD player at Walmart. Got a damn good price on it too. And sometimes, if you have a little bit of the anthropologist in you, I have a little bit of the anthropologist in me. Walmart is a good anthropology study. Yeah, Walmart's is its own little environment. I mean, there are people who there's people who might be on disability, whatever, and there's all the you could Subways and the different stores you can eat, and there are people who I guess who actually go to Walmart's to spend the day and not necessarily shopping. It's a destination. And then of course there are the YouTubes of some of the people who apparently dress especially to go out to Walmart's. And that can be entertaining, and it can be entertaining. Frivolous entertainment. You could say a little bit of a psychological study. Yeah, I mean, really, because there is, other than shopping, there's like the whole front of the store has these different places, and you can. And so basically, it's a crowd. It's almost like us, we all do live streams, and you see the same kind of faces. Well, for some people, their live stream is going to Walmart. So I keep, I'm kind of, it's almost like I'm beating around the bush. Now anybody, if you click on that link I put in there, you'll be looking at the same page. Because there's the home page, and then there's the Thunderbird formation page. And that was the link I put in there. So if anybody wants to see what if I reconfigure this, give me a second, I'll reconfigure my browser here. Oh, I don't even have to reconfigure, it's ready to go. So okay, I'm going to transition. And of course I can't, when I'm in this transition, I don't see any of the chat, but here's the Thunderbird formation, and they have an introduction. The following is a glimpse of the strategic template of the Kalika War Party, the Thunderbird formation. This template is the working design for a warrior class to be deployed across the planet from November 2014 onward. Its members are volunteers self-selected from many backgrounds, lands, ethnicities, and languages. They renounce all religions and creeds to engage in Gaian Tantra, guided and protected by the supernatural powers of the shock goddess Kali. This unique band of warriors embodies and implements the rage of the earth itself, the wrath of the planetary animal mother. Kali Ma says, either you are party to my supernatural magic, or you are rubble. So Kalika means of, from, or belonging to Kali. The names of the bands denote specific infernal powers of Gaia Dakini's Mahavidyas, supernatural witches who oversee the actions of the party. By the way, these Dakinis and Mahavidyas are who we have been tracking, or I have been speaking about, in the lunar cycles. We are currently in Shift 2, an anomaly in itself of an anomalous double Dakini function of Bhudevi and Green Tara, and we're going to get a little bit more into them as we go below. And so having two Dakinis on shift is an anomaly, and having two Dakinis 2 shifts in a row is its own anomaly. And maybe when we get a little bit of what their energy is, we will find out maybe why this anomaly happened. So those are so they oversee the actions of the party, mostly derived from classical Sanskrit lore. These names may vary according to who uses them. Some Dakinis have names from several cultures, and they may have nicknames or pet names as well. Case in point, Kali or Kali Ma is also known as Bone Mother. We have Raksha has done some Bone Mother work on one of his live streams. Some Dakinis have names from several cultures, and they may have nicknames or pet names as well. because this isn't about bowing down or whatever. These are very real, very dynamic, and very playful. If you understand what playful is in planetary tantra. Again, the human species is a rough and tumble fart joke telling genius. So let's get with the program. So the Gaian Dakinis never state their own names, but acquire these names as humans identify them by co-acting with them. So once again, there's a co-acting. We're doing this together. The Gaian Dakinis match closely with fairies of Celtic Loas, which are Haitian Vodun, and Devas of Hindu, and so on. All these are terrestrial female powers which operate simultaneously in the depths of the earth, the sky, and the human psyche. Let me just stop there, because I addressed what is inside our psyche. And part of me starting just 2 months ago, watching the crescent moon and finding out and getting inspiration and then confirming through being one of them, John Lamb Lash has the celestic ability. Fox Adre, who's in here, also has that celestic ability. Because celestics is part of that naked eye astronomy and observing what constellations they are in. Not the zodiac, the actual constellations themselves. The zodiac is archontic. So where was, oh yeah, so they operate simultaneously in the depths of the earth, the sky, and in the human psyche. So one of the ways of dislodging the adversary from our psyche is to bring in healthier occupants. The Dakinis are the perfect addition to our psyche. SC, which is going to be short for the Shakti cluster. So SC indicates the source of the numerical array of these powers, the Shakti cluster. Like Transformers, shape-shifting robotic action figures in video games and marketed as toys, the Thunderbird formation is a transformation of the Shakti cluster with its 18 components intact but arranged in a different way, dynamically reconfigured. The eye of the Thunderbird is number 18. So before I read any more, just let me show you what this diagram that's being referred to. So there's the eye of the Thunderbird where I'm putting my pointer. That's number 18. Then you have 1 here, and you see the numbers don't follow. Like here's 1, here's 2. Okay, but these are the Dakini clusters in the Thunderbird formation. There are other ways of putting the clusters, or certainly imagining them. And I guess at some point some of that other stuff will be public. Right now, this is public. So, ranks and bands. This is where I think it gets interesting. Each line of engagement defining a rank represents a set of operations essential to the dynamics of the entire party. Imagine the different parts of the body of an eagle all working together when the eagle flies, lands, and strikes its prey. There is no hierarchy in the Thunderbird formation, as there is none in the bodily functions of a magnificent raptor like the eagle. All bands are laterally aligned, functional in particular ways, and equally important for the strategies, tactics, and operations of the party. Hindu Tantra gives the name Kula or Kaula to these bands. Kula means ass or pelvis, but also clan and tantric family unit. So clan, I think, is certainly a term we can all kind of be okay with. The Mahanirvana Tantra says that at the close of the Kali Yuga, the supreme magic of liberation is known and performed exclusively by these clans, whose members are called the Kaulas. By the way, there's about another 200 years to this Kali Yuga cycle, but we're getting to the end of it, so it's time to whoop some archontic ass. In jargon, Kali worshippers can be called cow lickers, ass-licking tantrikas. John, again, this is the earthiness of planetary tantra. The trope comparing the Great Mother to a cow alludes to a specific mystical experience. Hearing the sound of the living planet as a low groan rising from the ground, which sounds remarkably like the lowing of a cow. From November 2014 onward, this sound becomes audible to many people around the world, given they have a natural setting that provides sufficient silence to detect it. Okay, I'm going to come back into the chat for a little bit. I think there was quite a bit to digest. There's a little bit more to go, but I also want to see what's going on in the chat with all of my yakking here. No, Robin, I appreciate you. I actually, you know, and I think it was great that you ducked out and watched the. You saw that little piece, those two pieces of Butch, myself, and the drummer on stage. Because I have a feeling this, the reading I was doing would probably be something that, not exactly. Maybe up your alley. So again, I'm making music too. There's there's plenty of good stuff to partake of, and so that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of doing a few things. I'll be doing Can't You Hear Me Gnostic, and maybe once a week I'll be doing Mystic Muse, and that'll be about music. But music is part of what we're doing, and actually that'll be part as we get down into the bands. Oh, hello, Martin, or Christian Martin. Thank you. I'm waiting to... Christian Martin, I think I might have shared... I don't know. No, I didn't, because I don't have screen share here. Although I guess I could do it. But he sent 2 renderings of a wizardy character that he... I mean, Christian Martin is quite an artist, in the drawing sense. Great colors. I love your colors, Christian. And I also enjoy the whole thing. And I showed it to, I guess I shared it with the people in Global Mission of Peace, and they went, "Oh, they loved the work." And I told them that you were working on one of me, and I really look forward to it. Having seen the talent you have there, I am really looking forward to that. Yeah, I don't use Wi-Fi for my internet. There's a Wi-Fi in the house, and fortunately nobody else wants to use it. And my box is on the other side of the wall. I have a 50-foot or maybe 25-foot cable, so I'm not using Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi only were absolutely essential. And, okay, so I just wanted to check in with the live chat. Apparently everybody's doing okay here. And, of course, I have Raksha and Mad Finger are in there. And keeping it real. Keeping it real. Love you guys. All right, so I'll get... oh, my God. Okay, we're going to go to there. Okay, my face goes off the camera. And we'll get a little into this ranks of bands, because this is where okay, weapons and assignments. Sounds a little, don't let the words shock you too much. Each band has its own weapons, assignments, and targets. Weapons include tactics and tools for guerrilla warfare, intellectual definitions such as contraviolence, memes, slogans, insignia, symbols, etc., as well as artistic, literary, musical, cinematic, and theatrical skills of every conceivable kind. Alright, so I'm hoping this is starting to open up what sound like this ominous thing, the Kalika War Party, weapons and assignments. Well, did you hear some of these weapons? Artistic, literary, musical, cinematic, and theatrical skills. Right, now is it starting to sound a little more engaging? I hope so. Weapons include paranormal faculties such as remote viewing and telepathy by location, magical techniques, erotic rituals, incantations, mudras, tantric spells including the lethal strike or killing spell. Okay, this is where most people suddenly go, ah! Okay, most people, but not all. And that's part of it. I mean, artistic, literary, musical, cinematic, theatrical skills, remote viewing, telepathy by location. Okay, there's a lot to do here. And then, of course, there is the first two bands that will do the sorcery, let's say. The bands specialize in undertaking particular assignments, for example, to destroy the hypnotic effects of advertising, attack GMO production, shatter the networks of institutionalized pedophilia. Okay, targets, and then I'm going to get back to the live chat for a little bit because again, this is not light reading or audio. Targets. With the assignments defined, specific targets come up in the sights of the party. Banksters, currency traders, heads of corporations, lawyers who defend perpetrators, pedophiles, theocrats, propagandists who foment race wars, religious ideologues, media shills, and many more. There is no lack of targets. Kalika warriors decide on an individual basis or in consultation with other warriors if a target has to be terminated or merely neutralized. Threat display against targets is one of the prized tactics of the KWP, to be handled with consummate skill. Make no threat that cannot be implemented is a strict rule among Kalika warriors. Okay. How's everybody doing here in the live chat? Is it too much? Everybody kind of been able to listen to this as I read it without? Looks like it's doing okay. I'm pretty happy about this. Hello, welcome, Lita. I have on below in the description, underneath the video itself, there's a description of it, and there are links to probably the most concise telling of the Sophianic narrative conducted with Lisa Harrison. And I recommend anybody who would really just kind of like, what is this planetary Tantra Gnostic idea about? What's being discussed here? What is the heart of it? If you listen even to the first one, if you listen to the first one and are not jonesing for the second one, it hasn't caught you. In most cases, after that first one's done, you're glad there's a second one because you have just had like all kinds of openings and ahas and like, oh boy, does this feel like soul food. And so that's kind of how I recommend. Listen to the one, and again, if you can't make it through it, I guess planetary Tantra is not your path. No, I don't have an echo. I have a accompaniment by a TV on the other side, and to enjoy the TV medium better, they have a home theater system. One of the towers is about 8 inches, maybe a full foot away from my door. Oh, okay. So I understand what's happening with the emphasis. I understand why it would echo then. So I'll keep the emphasis down. No, Raksha, I know if I speak loud enough, I will then create a loop between my speaker here. And actually, you know something? I don't need to have that speaker in. So I just undid my speaker because I don't need it, because there's nothing I'm listening to. I'm listening to myself. And so I think that should have fixed any feedback. So now I can get a little bit hot-blooded if I want. So Lita, like again, there's two really definitive. The most important part of this whole thing. This is development of the Kalika War Party is another aspect of planetary tantra. What's good about those interviews, those talks he's conducting with Lisa Harrison are about planetary tantra. It's about the Sophianic narrative, the heart of all of this. If you were to sit in a cave and just commune, having this information would make the cave a lot cozier. So anyway, I'm gonna, since everything is kind of calmed down there, and so yeah, there's no way for it to feedback. Again, there's plenty of sound in the background. All right, so I'm getting out of this. Go to KWP. Get back here. Put it up so you can read along with me if you care, but I try to read in a way that might, in case you're not staring at the blue screen, you can still hear it. Counterterrorism. Knowledge of that which is, now this is a saying, knowledge of that which is alive can alone banish terror. That is a quote from William Reich. Okay. The KWP is a counter-terrorist elite strike force using shamanic magic and other weapons to attack all aspects of social evil. Kalika warriors profile terrorism on the planet today by its initial historic source in religion and its current Hydra-type expression in the corporate politics of the state. Kalika warriors stand up against many lies, starting with the mother of all lies in the modern world. The state protects the people against terrorism. They act directly on the brutal truth that can no longer be hidden. The state is the primary source of terrorism against all peoples of the world. Countering terror requires striking against the state. It means frontally attacking and taking down the authorities, the rulers, the archons. In the pure world-based, there's a person who's a ruler. So just, there's archons has a few applications, and so taking down the authorities. Judas said, "Behold, the authorities," and then in parentheses, archons, "dwell above us. So it is they who will rule over us." The master replied, "It is you who will rule over them, but only when you rid the world of envy. Take upon your minds the divine light and unite in sacred love." Nag Hammadi codices. Interestingly, here we have one character who's well known from the Gospels, Judas. But in the person who in the Gospels might be given the name Jesus, in the Nag Hammadi codices, it's the master. And who just the exact personage of that master isn't as important as that there was somebody who has a certain wisdom attributed to them. And I like that. It is you who will rule over the authorities, but only when you rid the world of envy. Take upon your minds the divine light and unite in sacred love. And then there's, you know, in parentheses, the bridal chamber. Envy. Envy. The biggest fuckery of the common people. When one of us who's not feeling good sees somebody else doing well, is it usually a celebration that one of our own is doing well? No. Sometimes envy often is the fuckery. To banish the ultimate terror on earth, Kalika warriors bond themselves to that which is most alive, the source of all life as we know it, the earth itself. In declaring war on psychopaths and the enemies of life, the Kalika War Party also declares the end of a widely cherished illusion. The earth is a stage, and in quotes, the earth is a stage where history unfolds, end quote. They declare that the earth is no stage, no mere passive setting for human action. They follow instruction of the Sophianic narrative. History is merely a dream of the earth, a nightmare from which the planetary animal mother Gaia Sophia now begins to awake. She is waking in a lucid dream and seeks out those who want to meet her in person. The unparalleled power of that wake-up event now reaches human hearts like an irresistible swell of music that moves you to motion and tears. Sophia's beauty now breaks into the human mind like a tsunami. Riding that wave in the curl is the Kalika War Party. And I'll just quickly show this before we get back to it, because I'm just going to keep on, reading little tracks and getting back into the live chat here and see how we're doing. Things are going well, so I'll get right back to the reading. So there is the Thunderbird formation. So, as you can see here, there's the ranks, again, it's just the function, it's not hierarchical. So there is this one that contains 2. Here, you have level 2, another 2. Level 3, it looks like it has 4 different dakinis associated with it. Level 4, it looks like another 4 dakinis there, and level 5 also has 4 dakinis. So the kind of more frontline warriors have 2 dakinis, and then the more diverse bands have 4 dakinis each. So let's take a little look at some of this. The Eye of the Thunderbird, which is here, and is kind of its own designation. Oh, I just see. I'm sorry, I had something wrong. 1 has 3 dakinis, not 2. 1 looks like a 13 and a 9. I'm not wearing my glasses, so. Eye of the Thunderbird. The Kalki or Kali Avatar, the Tulpa of Gaia Sophia. Leading position. Sophia's correction, revelation of the aeonic experiment on Earth, divine guidance through interactive magic with the Earth, the Terma of Gaia awakening, the Gnostic revival, Gaian eco-sorcery, planetary tantra, Kala tantra, liberation from deception, terror and enslavement, safety for all that lives, sexual erotic enlightenment, supernatural magic and action, tantric animism free of religious and scientific dogmas, social regeneration. Rank 1, neck and shoulders, frontal attack on belief systems, mind control, all religions. Mahakali, also known as Kali Ma, Durga, Ambika, Makara, 1001 names. Male warriors with female apprentices. Hang on, ladies, you're next. Assigned to bring down all religions, meaning Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and structures of patriarchal male mind dominance. Demonstrates the use of morbido. You can read more of that yourself. Number 9, Matangi, also known as Erzuli Dantor, that's in the Haitian name, and White Buffalo Woman. White Buffalo Woman is the one who gave us tobacco. This one is women warriors with male apprentices. Assigned to teaching rites of passage, puberty, marriage, mating, trickster arts, exposing and demolishing the specious paths of spirituality, especially New Age narcissism and escapism. Targeting New Age gurus, all aspects of cultural Marxism, dedicated to teaching the planetary vision quest and proving its unique value and perspectives. And number 13, the third Dakini associated with rank 1, Kurukula, also known as Athena the Archer, Mad Marlena, Switch Bitch, Caratwin. Motley Crew, men and women in triads, assigned to break all taboos, guerrilla warfare on glamour and advertising, breaking through repressive cultural norms, attacking conformity, using pranks, ridicule, and satire to discredit cultural authorities. My Go to Your Room song, the Goob song, that certainly falls into this category. That will come on. That song I intend to release in some form as like a standalone video in the next shift. Note special protocol. Okay, there's I won't get into. There's other stuff. I mean, anybody can read this. I want to get to the what might be a little inspirational. Rank 2, the wing thrust upper body, backup, reinforcement attack on the infrastructures of evil and deceit. Number 12, Tantra Mother, also known as Vajra Yogini, Dorje Fagmo, Diamond Sow, or Miss Piggy. Assigned to teach release from pretending and the 5 skull crown initiation, targeting secrecy in all realms, attacking individual and institutionalized pedophilia, also called pedocitism. Bhairavi, also known as Sekhmet, Sikamuki, lion-headed, or Balam, black jaguar, and then there's another name, Ixbalanque, from the Aztec. Assigned in parallel to battle secrecy in all forms, expose and eliminate psychopaths in positions of power and influence. Lethal strike on war criminals, arm dealers, defense industry contractors. Now I'm going to get to other stuff. Again, you can read all of this. I'm going to skip over some of it. Just first of all, I'd like to tie this up in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And I feel there's probably be a little more resonance with some of the other parts of the Thunderbird. Rank 3, upper torso directing wings. Unification, internal strength, balance of forces, ethics, and aesthetics. 15, Visvamata, also known as Yugen, which is a Japanese precious grace, Dike, Themis, Rita, Kuan Yin, and the variegated mother. Assigned to guarding and propagating the narrative of the Sophianic mysteries, vetting entrance into the party, Gaian ethics, inter-party issues, targeting the legal system, promulgating the correct view of common law, or in parentheses, consequential law. Again, we all have freedom, but even freedom has consequences. Bhudevi. Bhudevi happens to be one of the Dakinis on shift right now. Also known as Bhuvana Shivari, many variants of Mother Earth, Lakshmi in Hindu, assigned to fight against the enemies of the environment, to promote ecology, aesthetics. Material magic with the four elements provides safe environments for warriors to gather and confer. Okay, so you see the supportive role is very, very different than the earlier stuff, but all the earlier parts need this, just like the body needs all its parts, or there'll be nothing. Merita, also known as Chinnamasta, the self-beheading Dakini. Kandali, I like this one, hot pants. I've seen like some art of Chinnamasta, the self-beheading Dakini. It's very interesting in its symbology. Assigned to preserve and reactivate ancient systems of seasonal timing, archaic calendars, megalithic sites, teach the law of conduction and other sciences related to Gaian biophysics, revives the work of William Reich, organotics, targets false and specious claims, and fraudulent natural science. So, what's interesting is, again, with the music, to me, the music and the aesthetics, and also the four elements, I burned a bunch of incense going into this. I was supposed to put a candle on, I didn't get around to that. But that's, Bhudevi is, definitely at Dakini, I feel very much aligned with. The interesting thing is, now this other one, Merita or Chinnamasta, reactivate ancient systems of seasonal timing, archaic calendars. That is what we have been doing. If you have, like, notes with Mystic and the Moose, we do ours on the new moon. The dangerous discussions that Moose has with Niche is done on the full moon. We are using seasonal or moon timing. We're not like picking, oh, in 2 weeks. No. When's the next new moon, and if it doesn't conflict with other things. So this is all part of getting realigned with that. And the last Dakini in this rank is Swandeva, also known as, looks like Nairatmia, Ratmia. I should have practiced that. Nairatmia. Okay, in Buddhism. Okay. The Story Keeper, uniquely assigned to preserve and protect, guard and propagate the narratives of the Sophianic mysteries and related grand narratives, master plots, such as the Vajrayana romance, oversees cinematic projects that derive from planetary tantra, targeting false and distracting narratives, such as the Sitchin scenario, the slave species meme, off-planet channelings, etc. And then we get to rank 4, but I'm going to take, again, there's quite a bit going on here, and so I bring myself on the camera, get back into here, and look at the live dashboard and see how things are going. Good night, Robin. Thank you, Raksha. And we have right now we have the Mad Finger on shift. Hello, Lisa. Did I miss anybody? I got Lita Blue. I got Lisa. All right, I don't see any. I think I said hello to Blue Blood Jam. Yeah, I think I've greeted everybody. Okay, so I'm getting towards the end here. So rank 4, lower torso and middle force of wings, organization, communication, intra-party practices, and networking. So Shodashi or Euphanies, and I'll skip all the other many names right for now, assigned to develop and disseminate new forms of beauty and aesthetics, including the look and style of the KWP, costumes, insignia, etc. Doubles as a team that revives and teaches Gaian alchemy, as without, so within, and post-Maslowian psychology. Works with the weapon of beauty, infiltrates the music entertainment industry. Indris, also known as Bagalamukhi. I'm pretty sure she'll be the next one coming on shift at the next new moon. Mistress of Fate, Mora in Greek. Assigned to arcane techniques of doubling, dreaming together, astral warfare, remote viewing attacks undertaken by couples. Targets marriage and all conventional forms of pair bonding. Understand, this is conventional legal contracts. Champion of self-determination, romantic individuality for both genders. Attacks feminism. That might trigger a few people. Remember, it's interesting. I mean, the focus here is Sophia, the Earth goddess. So obviously, we don't have any issues with the female energy. This is about that the distortion of the sacred feminine called feminism. Kamala, also known as Kula Devi, Kundalini Devi, Aphrodite, Astarte, Astaroth. Assigned to the Kala Tantra erotic art, sex education. Okay. Targets degenerate policies of sex education and other things in that category. Telepaths. Assigned to all tasks in communication, IT, coding, messaging, networking services for the party, outreach to allies, no recruiting. Outreach to allies. Assigned also to formal teaching of historical basis of the warrior class, Gnosticism, and Sophianic mysteries. Kind of public relations. And then we have the rank 5, the rear guard action, clearance, healing, apotropaic magic. This is now Tara. Tara is the other Dakini. Bhudevi was the one Dakini and this anomalous double team and also an anomalous double shift. Tara. Also known as Dolma, the wrathful green Tara, and also the Selector. Assigned to preserve and teach the Grail legend and the Terma of Gaia awakening. Targets false and misleading teachings about the Grail and its guardians. Undertakes the special mission of countering lies about racial identity, eugenics, and multicultural race mixing. Again, these are about agendas. This is not about what naturally happens. This is about agendas that create. It's like marketing. They created a desire to do something that you might not normally naturally do. If you naturally want something, it's very different than when they get inside your psyche, and then there are kind of like virtue points for doing the agenda. 14 is Udasi, Panacea, also known as Hygeia, and Sachamama. Assigned to the medic division, psychedelic healing, quest for the solution to all ills, targets big pharma, vaccination programs, weaponized medicine, etc. Uniquely commands the power of the Janus Face Serpent and confers it on others. Dumavati, Our Lady of the Smoke, the Sweeper, Grow Woman, and Gitana. Assigned to treat emotional damage, grief, separation, and loss within the party. Targets false therapies of transformation, and gives grief to self-declared healers and other charlatans. And the last one is Terma Guard, also known as Durto Lamo, Dangerous Protector, Special Guardian of Termas and Tertons. Assigned to wrangle with anyone who tries to interfere with the Terma. Use of apotropaic magic, threat management, name and shame enemies of the party or those who fraudulently claim to belong to it. And of course there's some other things, but that was just kind of, I wanted to get out some of the ideas that John put on paper, and this was written in 2014. And did I switch over correctly? No, it's not a switch over correctly. I'll put that there. Oh, whatever. We should all be good now. There we go. There's my face. That's what I wanted to see. So, oh, okay, it's a good time for me to close down. All the mods are going, so that would just leave me, so I certainly can't read. Not that it looks like there's been any need for moderation tonight. Oh, Raksha Moose is still here. Good. So, what's going? Oh, it's really interesting. I seem to be unable to scroll in my own chat here. Okay, so here we are at 11:02. Boy, that 2 hours flew by, in my opinion. I mean, it seems like I just started it. I didn't even miss not having a cigarette. And, although 2 hours without even a sip of water is not particularly brilliant, it's kind of, you know, it's optimal to put about 4 ounces of water in your body every half an hour. So I just went 2 hours with 0 ounces of water. Now, to me, what I just read is very, very much of a template that was put out in 2014 as Gaia's Sophia's correction was beginning. And obviously the aspect of Sophia, Kali, and John has a fairly martial, besides being a scholar of a considerable intellect, he's also a scrapper. So he put this together, and it's just we cannot be against such a dedicated and deadly adversary without, at least giving them a hard time about it. And again, I sometimes the words I choose will be those with ears to hear will hear. I want people to hear and not necessarily be triggered or shocked. And but it was just there has been the time it's on. So it begins preparing ourselves. And I just thought that there, within planetary tantra, within the within planetary tantra, within the telestai, that's a better word, those who are aimed, because that's what the ones who were called Gnostics, the ones who were called Gnostics by others, which is kind of, oh, you guys know so much, envy, that was the name that they came to know, because also that their essential part of the telestai was gnosis. So Gnostic was kind of the term that non-telestai used towards the telestai, those who are aimed. And I really want to make that difference, because there's Aeon Gnostic Bites with Miguel Connor, and I don't consider that that channel a particularly Gnostic channel. There might be some discussions about Gnostic. I mean, what I really got plugged in was there was an introduction, and I said this the other day, about him when he was talking about our crappy little planet. Oh, no, Miguel. And I let him know that crappy little planet, not in my Sophianic narrative. So, okay, those who have to bug out. I mean, I'm bugging out in a minute or two also, because we're bringing this to a close. So, anybody, I think I would like to know how people thought this stream went tonight. If I do another stream later on, like if I do a Friday night stream, it'll probably be a Mystic Muse stream. Of course, I'm always going to be a Gnostic, but part of it is I'm always going to be a Telestai, actually, because I am aimed. And, but there's the music is part of this, and I might even, you know, play my you know, another unofficial release of Go to Your Room, which is which is the Arcanoclast anthem for myself so far. Seven, if that's a question directed at me, I would have to say I can't have an opinion of someone I've never heard of. Lead, the Sophianic myth as John has delivered it is a part of a lot of it was, you know, picked out from what could be picked out of their stuff, and there was also, as he mentions, a lot of journeying, a lot of shamanic journeying, and the use of plant medicines and direct communication. The planet, you can directly communicate with the planet, and of course with their dakinis, and so yeah, he did put it forth. But I've heard even his own language. It's hardly like he would hardly say, "This is, you know, mine." No, this is our myth. This is our myth. So Seven Serpents, who Samuel Aoun Weor. I have never heard of that person. I've you know, one of the people I've heard you mention, of course, Montauk Chia, the Taoist. I'm certainly familiar with his work. At one time, I even owned a book of his. I like the Tao. I'm not. That's why you almost will never hear me use the word Gnosticism until it gets truly organic, and then once it's an organism, I'm fine with the ism as an organism. A lot of ideas as isms to me are, you know, fictions trying to be real. I've never in my, let's see, going on 8 years of listening to John Lash and my own, you know, my other, you know, I have the Nag Hammadi, I have it in PDF form. I've never heard of that person. I mean, the interesting thing is, you know, occasionally, especially if you have a John Lash video, you have all these things, you know, that YouTube suggests, Gnostic this, and I tune in, it's like, what, Gnostic what? I mean, the word Gnostic is used a bunch of times in the video, but I'm waiting for some you know, some earth-based narrative here. Yeah, Joseph Campbell. Yeah, he's good stuff. Very much good stuff. So yeah, so this is basically the end of Can't You Hear Me Gnostic for this Monday on May. We're still in the lunar cycle of Boo Devi and Green Tara. And if you've been noticing what's going on in Hawaii and what happened in the Gulf and what happened in Maryland, you will see Wrathful Green Tara is cleaning things up. This is not a good time. This is not a very good time to have a seashore property, especially. I mean, it's not a good time, and especially since a lot of people who live on a seashore usually are not the most Gaian-based in their spirituality. So I think the coastlines are going to be happening. Especially, you know, we're coming into hurricane season. Last hurricane season was not pretty. I think that was a warm-up act. May I be wrong, but all I can say is during this shift and feeling what's going on, preparing ourselves. So it begins. And so it ends for this stream. So the next scheduled Can't You Hear Me Gnostic will be again next Monday. Always picking one of the you know, there's sun, there's, you know, we live in a trimorphic system of the sun, moon, and the earth. So it was either Sunday or Monday, rather than one of the other planets. So I like Monday. Good time, good energy. And I'm thinking that, you know, I might be doing my first Mystic Muse either maybe Friday or Saturday night. We'll see how it goes. See how the week, I mean, again, we'll see how the week treats myself and us all. But in the meantime, remember the cleansing our psyche and bringing in, you know, by tuning in to what the mood of our mother is each lunar cycle, by kind of just following that, allowing ourselves to find that crescent moon at that first day or two or so 3 after the invisible new moon, and just letting that energy come into you. And then if you you know, it's fine to find out who it is from somebody else, and to kind of like and then you can study it. You know, there's on metahistory.org, there is really good studies and creation myths about each one of the Dakinis, which allow you to really kind of get some clues. There's some very interesting creation myths around them. Like the next Bagalamukhi has a very interesting creation myth about her, how she came out of the smoke of Shakti's mouth, and smoke is a metaphor. So there's a pretty interesting creation myth around who I believe will be the next Dakini on shift, and that's the Dakini I feel will be right for me to actually make a video, even if it's just me on acoustic guitar, but a dedicated video of "Go to Your Room," the Goob song. So be well, all. Stay in your heart. Stay in your heart, and know know what to connect to for solace, guidance, instruction, safety. And so until next week, my love to you all, and take care of each other and yourselves. That's right, I figured I always have about 10 seconds after I stop streaming to